Needles are scary. The thought of getting jabbed by a needle is enough to make you squirm, and that stabbing sensation of the thin metal spike poking into you is even worse, especially when you're not expecting it. Imagine you're walking along, minding your own business, when you feel something small and sharp stab into your foot. When you check, it's vanished. The needle has broken and is no longer there. Can a needle really move once it's inside your body? What kind of damage could it do? This is the story of what happened when a 13-year-old girl lost a sewing needle in her foot for 10 years. These are the questions that kept over 1 million viewers on the edge of their seats over the course of one TikToker's medical journey that she shared on her platform. February 1st, 2023, TikToker Rebecca Hiller uploaded a video where she described strange pains and numbness in half of her foot. The cause, she believed, was likely an old injury from 10 years before. Back when she was 13, Rebecca had stepped on a sewing needle and lodged it in her foot. But when she tried to remove it, she could only get half of it out, so she decided to seek medical advice, thinking that this new pain might be related to that old needle injury. While she had gotten her start with fashion content, Rebecca decided to post about her trip to the doctors to her modest 700 Instagram and 600 TikTok followers. It seemed an open and shut case. Go to the doctor, find the rest of the needle, get it removed. Easy as 1, 2, 3. But that's not quite how things turned out. Rebecca's next update was on February 16th, where she explained that x-rays hadn't turned up any needles. However, there was some kind of mass in her foot. The unexpected discovery only brought up more questions. Was this a calcified rock that had built up around the remains of the needle, or was it something else? But the doctor couldn't tell, so Rebecca was referred to a podiatrist for an appointment on February 22nd, leaving Rebecca and her audience living in suspense. And some of her viewers just couldn't handle that suspense. Commenters just couldn't wait a whole week for updates and began hounding her for updates. Some posted their own theories as to what it could be, and others even wished for the needle to appear so that their own theories would be confirmed. But no matter how hard they wished, only time would tell what exactly it is that was in Rebecca's foot. Until finally, she got an answer, and it wasn't the needle. Rebecca posted a video stating, "It's happening," on the 22nd, and told her audience to expect a resolution to the mystery soon. After going through the medical system for almost a month, Rebecca and her viewers were finally given their answer. It wasn't the needle, but it had been caused by the needle. As a result of her decade-old injury, scar tissue in her foot had created 2 growths of nerve tissue known as neuromas between her toes. To treat these, Rebecca was prescribed 8 rounds of injection therapy, which generally involves the administration of steroids and anesthetic into the foot to treat inflammation and pain. Each round requires her to take a series of injections along the bottom of her foot and between her toes. Rebecca was also given a topical cream and custom orthotics to support her feet. So, case closed, right? Well, not quite. Even though Rebecca had gotten a diagnosis, she was left with a troubling question. Whatever happened to the other half of that needle? Well, even though x-rays didn't show it in her foot, concerns remain that maybe the needle was still in her body. Some commenters pointed out that the needle may have migrated from her foot further into her body, raising concerns among viewers that the wandering needle could damage Rebecca's organs or even cause sepsis, which is a pretty stressful thought, all things considered. A migrant-sharp piece of metal floating through your body would be terrifying. But is it even possible? Well, unfortunately for your nightmares, yes it is. One 61-year-old woman was admitted to the hospital complaining of severe shortness of breath. Doctors made a startling discovery: a foreign object lodged in her heart. 16 months earlier, the woman had previously spent 4 months in the hospital following a hysterectomy. Studying the report from this earlier procedure, doctors had found their culprit. A hypodermic needle used for anesthetic had fractured in her abdomen, and while attempts were made to retrieve it, none were successful. But since it didn't seem to have any ill effects, the surgeons just left it there. Unfortunately for the woman, those ill effects would soon become apparent. That needle fragment somehow migrated from her abdomen up into her heart. There, it completely destroyed one of the valves of her heart, causing many ill effects. The doctors took action, and luckily for the woman, were not only able to remove the needle fragment, but also replaced her heart valve. But another case had a far worse outcome. May 2017. 73-year-old John Burns Johnson from Lafayette, Tennessee, underwent a grueling 9-hour-long open-heart surgery procedure at the TriStar Centennial Hospital. However, after sewing John's chest closed, the surgeon made a horrifying realization. One of his surgical needles was missing. According to a lawsuit filed against the hospital, an X-ray of John showed that the needle had been forgotten in his heart. The surgeon reopened John's chest in an attempt to remove the needle, but was unable to do so, likely either because the needle was inaccessible or could not be found. And, unfortunately, while the needles in Rebecca in our previous case didn't have any ill effects at first, this needle had an immediate effect on John. For the next month, John's condition continued to deteriorate until, after a month had passed since his operation, so had he. The needle was only able to be retrieved during the autopsy. In the aftermath, John's family filed a lawsuit against the hospital, alleging that John suffered in his last month of life and that his death was, quote, painful, unnecessary, and wrongful. But how exactly does something like a needle make its way through the body to our vital organs? Well, in Johnson's case, it was reportedly left there by accident by the surgeon. In fact, according to the Journal of American College of Surgeons, surgical items are left in patients in once every 5,500 to 7,000 operations, with the most common items being surgical needles and sponges. Case closed. But for the 61-year-old woman, the needle took more of an unexpected path. The needle fragment started in her abdomen and then made its way into her bloodstream. From there, it was carried up through her body, into her liver, until it was finally delivered into her heart. Thankfully, in this case, the woman made a full recovery with no complications. And it's not like a sharp object traveling through your body is exactly rare either. In another incident, a 29-year-old man had a habit of putting a toothpick in his drinks in order to keep track of them. Clever move, right? Well, maybe, right up until he accidentally swallowed it while out drinking. The toothpick then got drawn into his airways where it passed into his lungs, and then proceeded to stab through the wall of his right lung and proceeded to pass into his heart. He soon started experiencing health issues like lung inflammation and high fevers. He sought out medical advice only to be bounced around by doctors for years, with some suggesting that he might have other conditions like sepsis or leukemia. It took several years and almost $30,000, but finally doctors found the culprit, a 2.4-inch toothpick lodged in his heart. When doctors finally found the issue, they were thankfully able to surgically remove it without issue. The wildest part of the story may be that this wasn't even the first time the man had swallowed a toothpick while drinking. According to him, he had swallowed a toothpick once before where it had gotten stuck in his throat, requiring him to pick it out with his hand. But whether it's needles or toothpicks, having sharp things in your body just isn't a great time. In fact, we even did a whole video on what happens if you swallow a toothpick. And as for Rebecca, while the fervor has died down surrounding her medical journey, she's still not entirely certain what happened to the other half of that needle, saying, either I got all of it out when I was 13, or it's migrated somewhere else. She's currently considering her medical options, like whether to get more x-rays, but for the moment is just trying to calm her nerves after her arduous medical journey. When it comes to cuts, scrapes, and sharp foreign objects, it's always better to get them checked out than to leave things to their own devices. After all, if left unchecked, they might just... well, you get the point.